Never stop reading Bible. Welcome everyone. Today we are diving right into a journey from chapters 13 through 15 of the book of Acts that is, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most significant turning points in history. This is so much more than a travelogue. It's the story of a monumental shift.
What we're looking at here is the precise moment of faith, one rooted in Jerusalem and Jewish tradition, begins to break out of its shell. This mission, by two men named Paul and Barnabas, is the historical pivot point. It's the moment a belief system tied to one ethnic group started its journey to becoming a faith for the entire globe.
So where does this all begin? Well, it starts in a city called Antioch. The church there, while they were fasting and praying, felt a clear direction from what they called the Holy Spirit. Set apart Paul and Barnabas for a special work. And just like that, they were commissioned and sent out on their first major missionary journey.
Now, their path wasn't random at all. They traveled first to the island of Cyprus and then moved on to Pisidian Antioch in what we'd call modern-day Turkey. At each stop, they preached their message, and it's in Pisidian Antioch that things really come to a head, with a sermon that sparks both massive interest and some really intense opposition.
This is the absolute heart of Paul's message. He's doing something both brilliant and, really controversial. He connects Jesus directly to the great Jewish king, David, framing him as the fulfillment of ancient prophecy. But then he extends the offer of forgiveness through Jesus to everyone listening, Jew and non-Jew alike. For the time, this was a radical expansion of the message.
But as their message spread, so did the resistance. Chapter 14 shows us that this journey was anything but easy. It seems like success was almost always followed by severe and often pretty dangerous persecution. You can almost see the battle lines being drawn here. On one side, you've got the messengers, Paul and Barnabas. But on the other, there are two really distinct sources of opposition. You have Jewish leaders who saw their message as a threat, and then you have these non-Jewish crowds who often just completely misunderstood what was happening, leading to some really chaotic situations.
And wow, nothing captures the volatility of their mission quite like the events in Lystra. Paul performs a healing, and the crowd, totally steeped in their own mythology, immediately tries to worship them as Greek gods. Paul and Barnabas are horrified. They tear their clothes, trying to explain who they really are. But then, opponents from the last town arrive, and, with just a few words, they flip the entire crowd from adoration to murderous rage.
And yet, even after being nearly stoned to death, their mission wasn't over. They doubled back, revisiting the very cities where they were just persecuted. Now, why would they do that? To encourage and strengthen the new communities of believers they had founded. Finally, they returned home to Antioch to report on everything that had happened.
Now, the physical dangers of the road give way to a completely different kind of battle, a theological one. After the success of their journey, a huge debate erupts that threatens to tear the young movement apart, forcing a historic council in Jerusalem.
And this was the question, right at the center of it all. It was a crisis that went to the very identity of the movement. For non-Jews, or Gentiles, to join, did they first have to essentially become Jewish by adopting laws like circumcision? The answer would absolutely define the future of the faith.
After some intense debate, the leaders in Jerusalem made a landmark ruling. They decided that being right with God was not tied to observing Jewish law, and the mission to the non-Jewish world got the official green light. This decision formally opened the door for the faith to become a truly global movement.
But just when you think they've achieved this incredible, unifying victory, a very human moment occurs. As Paul and Barnabas prepare for their next journey, they have such a sharp disagreement over a fellow missionary that they just can't continue together. This dynamic duo, who faced down angry mobs and changed history, decides to part ways.
So let's just step back for a second and look at the enormous impact of what we've just covered. In just these 3 chapters, we see a movement facing existential threats from both the outside and the inside, and it emerges completely transformed.
If there's one key takeaway here, it's this. A single official decision, prompted by the trials of one journey, redefined the boundaries of the faith and set it on a course to change the world.
And that leaves us with this final thought. The same people who achieved this world-changing theological victory couldn't resolve a personal conflict. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even the most significant moments in history are carried out by imperfect people, blending divine purpose with very real human frailty.
Thanks for joining us for this explainer.